There's a couple different English translations that have gained popularity. People are like, this is pretty legit. This is the translation. The modern English translation of the poem Catalyst 16 that he directed at his critics, Aurelius and Furious. Here it goes. I'm quoting this directly, as you all know. F*** you boys up the butt and in the mouth. You queer. All right, welcome back, Airheads. It's time once again. Putting on airs. We're here. We're doing it virtual Airstream Studios. I'm Trae, and that's Cho. How you doing, Cho? What kind of shirt is that? Which shirt you got on there?
That is an Allen Iverson shirt. That's the cover of. You remember Slam magazine?
Of course, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I bought several of these. I got a Shaq one. I got a Penny Hardaway one. They just take it's Mitchell and Ness, you know, the company that is far too cool for me to be wearing their stuff, but they do sell it to anybody. But they've got a whole line of just like the cover of Slam magazine. And between that and like East Bay and Sports Illustrated, that's just my childhood, was just sports magazines. And also, look how cool Allen Iverson looks right there.
Yep. I mean, even for him, I mean, he was known to be cool cool at generally all times. He had that. You talk about swagger. I mean, during that early 2000s area, the answer, man, Allen Iverson, he was like one of the coolest dudes alive. Everybody wanted to be like AI in the 2000s.
I've been thinking,
even fat little honky dorks like me.
Me too, dude. I've been thinking about him for the past couple of days because I saw LeBron. He was being questioned about, like, you know, the best basketball players of his era and like of all time. And he was talking about how he felt the conversation in all sports has gotten too ridiculous and too like championship focused about like, basically what he was saying was, he goes, to me, it's ridiculous that Allen Iverson can't be mentioned in the conversation of greats with like me and Kobe and blah, 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 because he didn't get a ring. You know what I mean? He's like, he goes, it's ridiculous to me. He's like, if you put Allen Iverson on any of them teams, they're getting it done. It's not an individual sport. And he actually brought up Peyton Manning too. He's like, a lot of people act like Peyton Manning can't even be in the same room with Tom Brady because he didn't win as many Super Bowls. And he's like, that's ridiculous, you know? And I was thinking about AI and like, it's so funny that he was considered like the most controversial son of a bitch at the time, and now if if someone in the league just acted like AI, they wouldn't even be a blip on the radar. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's how everybody be now.
Yeah, well, it's like that with you know, we don't do politics here, but maybe it might have been the anniversary of it or something. But for some reason, yesterday at the top of Reddit was that infamous clip from 20-something years ago of Howard Dean, who was running for president. Yeah, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go all the way to the White House. Yeah. And like that literally ruined. That was it. That was literally it. Like some people in the comments were like, there's an alternate universe where he just doesn't make that sound. Yeah. Like he says everything else he says right there. He just doesn't make that sound and might have become the next president of the United States. And who knows what would have happened from there. But it's like, it's similar thing with AI back then. It was just but like it's in the sports world. I get it, you know, it was ridiculous that AI was so controversial. Like in the politics world, I wish we could go back to that time.
Yes.
But in most of the rest of society, I'm glad it ain't like that anymore because America was just so much more buttoned up and people, and you know, so crazy. It's a tale of two pursuits, I guess. But
as crazy as it is, dude, like think about. This is Allen Iverson, somebody that was even way more crazy than him, but still was like ahead of his time. Like, dude, Dennis Rodman don't even make a blip now, really. Right. I mean, a little bit of one, but like, bruh, like he was, you know, and Dennis Rodman, I mean, granted, you know, on the team, they had some trouble with him, like missing practices and stuff like that. But really the main controversy of him was like he got married in a dress. He dared to dye his hair different colors and shit like that. And he was a member of NWO. You know
well, to be fair, the one thing I'll say, and again, we're already dancing all around politics, but that one part you mentioned,
the dress,
you said even Dennis Rodman wouldn't be a blip today, dude. That would be a bigger deal today.
Okay,
if he did that today, people would lose their minds over it. You know?
Okay, fair, but don't you think also there would be more people that came to support him?
Oh, for sure. No, he would also become like an icon at the same time.
Whereas back then, even the people now that would normally be on the side of he should be able to do this, they would have just not said anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, I agree with you that it would be a big deal, but he would have gotten so much support that instead of just losing sponsors, he would have picked up some more, you know?
Right. But yeah, I've thought before about how, like, and I know there were always people, particularly straight-laced and uptight people who had issues with this sort of thing, but like how we went through that whole era of people like David Bowie, right, who proudly were gender bendy, and that was part of their whole thing, and androgynous, and it was like sexy, you know?
Yeah.
And to a lot of people, androgyny still is sexy, but I'm saying it didn't have, I know there were plenty of people that were like, that boy's worshiping the devil or whatever, but it wasn't like, you know, I don't know. It didn't have the same vibe to it as it does today.
Dude looks like a lady wouldn't be as big of a hit if people felt that way.
Right. Absolutely. It's like for a long time that sort of thing was out there, and I'm sure there were papaws that rolled their eyes at it, but it wasn't that, you know, it wasn't
fuming.
Yeah. It wasn't like rending society into or whatever. It's just weird how all that went down.
Yeah, and we weren't alive, but I mean, like, I feel like people back then would have scoffed at a politician for trying to make somebody like David Bowie or Mick Jagger a political talking point. You know, they'd be like, that's music. They're all weird. Who gives a shit?
Do you think part of it, though, is because, and I mean, this is part of a larger thing that plenty of people have said, but like, back then you still couldn't even be like a gay person in public. So it was like, it was still hidden. So it was like, even if you did that type of thing, you couldn't be open. And so the people,
it was don't ask, don't tell.
Right. So people who get so mad about it back then, they were like, well, they still are in their place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then now today, you know, gay marriage getting legalized and all the stuff that's happened in the intervening 30, 40 years today, they feel like, well, they're getting out of control now. So now it's like, you got to crack down on it. Whereas back then they were like, nah, let them have their queer fun.
I was about to say, I think even
they're not doing anything serious about, they're not actively joining society or nothing like that. So it's okay.
Yeah. I think even into the early 2000s, people sort of had a like, well, look, we rock stars, we just put them on we judge them differently, as you should. But like, I remember one of my favorite jokes in this, I know I'm going to sound like an idiot here, and I hope Mark never sees this clip. One of my favorite jokes in 2.5 Men was Alan somehow met, Steven Tyler. Like, I don't know how Charlie was doing a jingle for something. And he met Steven Tyler and he goes, oh my God. He's like, Alan goes, I lost my virginity to you. And what he meant was while one of his songs was playing. And what Steven Tyler said was, he goes, man, it was the 70s. People were getting passed around. You know, we didn't know who was what. You know? Yeah. In other words, I might have banged you. I don't know. And that was like, that's on a network sitcom. And it was not, and like, I think everybody laughed at that and was just like, yeah, who knows? Steven Tyler was getting so much puss that he might have banged a dude, and everybody was like, yeah, why wouldn't he? You know what I mean? But now it would be like, if that joke was made, they'd be like, see, this is evidence of a pedophilic reign in Hollywood and the gays are blah, blah, blah. But I always thought it was just like, yeah, you know, Hollywood people do what they do and we do what we do and whatever. C'est la vie.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You just reminded me, you said that the joke in that whichever character said to Steven Tyler, I lost my
Alan, our boy.
Yeah. Our boy. Shout out JC. And I don't mean Jesus Christ, but, Drew said that to Adam Sandler. Do you remember that at Largo?
Yes, when he told him he lost his virginity to him, and Adam just goes,
it might have been, I got jerked off.
I got jerked
for
off
the first time or something, like in high school, because
Billy
Madison's on the TV, or Happy Gilmore or something, when Drew got his first hand job, and Adam Sandler was like, oh, okay, buddy. All right.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, right.
maybe don't open with that. But, you're on the right track, you know.
Yeah.
Man, we don't have to talk about it because I could talk about him forever, but what a wonderful experience that I love so much when everything you see online about Adam Sandler is that he's a great dude, and that I can personally like attest to that. Like when my friends asked me, they're like, "You've met him, right?" They're like, "Is he actually?" I'm like, "It could not be a nicer dude." I said,
"Everything you'd ever want him to be."
I said he could have just been like serviceable and fine, and I would have thought that was cool. But I was like, he went out of his way to be the coolest fucking dude ever, and did not have to be at all. And like, I also my dad was talking the other day. This might be the first time he was ever like in awe of me. He asked me, he said, Corey, he goes, have you heard that Adam Sandler Chris Farley song, and I was like, Dad, not only have I heard it, I said he came to our show and workshopped it before that special, and I saw an entire group of people cry. I said I was there when he was just tuning it up, and he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I said he was the coolest fucking dude ever. He ruled.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been, our generation especially, I've always been a big fan of Adam Sandler. But after like meeting him a few times at Largo and stuff, like now, I'll ride for the Sandman to the end of
all
time.
Day. All day.
Anybody got a problem with Adam Sandler's got a problem with me.
Even the people, again,
he's just so awesome.
Yeah, not to get into politics, and I'll stop after this, but like, he still hangs out and talks to Rob Schneider, and a lot of people are like, what a piece of shit. He still hangs out with that guy. And I'm like, yeah, that's his friend. That's his friend from a long time ago. And I'm certain that he differs with him on things, but that's still his friend. And I come from a place where like, your friends are your friends. You know what I mean? And like, I respect that about him.
Well, especially people like us understand. I mean, I feel like almost anyone should understand, unless you're from a very insular community or like a real bubble situation where everybody where you're from is the same. But for people like us, especially, I mean, I've said that for years because it's true. It's like, if I didn't, of course I had plenty of like conservative friends and stuff. I wouldn't have had if any I met damn him today, friends,
if I met him today, I might not be friends with him, but they've been my friend forever, and I'm not going to get rid of that. Dude, bro, you say that most people think that way. I've had people that genuinely think that I should stop being friends with my mom. You know what I mean? Like some crazy people like, I don't even know how you hang around your parents.
But those people are like, I don't know.
They're insane.
Well, it's also, again, they're just, they have to be from a very particular type of background.
Yeah, they didn't have a loving home.
Well, they just don't, literally everyone, I just assume that everyone around them is essentially the same.
The same,
or
yeah,
something.
and we didn't do that.
Or the other side of it is like, if you get like kicked out of your family or something because of how you are, if you are one of those people who had that happen to you.
If you're gay and your family's homophobic, by all means, get the fuck out of there.
But when I say most, it's like, how many Americans, our age and older especially, like don't know what it's like to have like, a racist papaw or a crazy uncle or that type of thing. It's like, it's still your papaw or still your uncle. You still love that person, but they're fucking wild and everybody knows that. But hey, that's just how they are. And it's like, you just deal with it. Because it's just like a fact of life, like.
Dude, I'm so glad that to get us out of this, but also because it fits the theme, I want to show you this clip that I had just about how how differently children were treated back in the day. And this is, I'm making it fit the show because do you see this?
Yeah.
It's our longtime subject on the show. Marion Williams, a.k.a. John Wayne. And this is just, so the subject line says, speech therapy became a mainstream health profession in the 80s. Here's before the 80s. This is how kids were treated. I would understand if you stopped talking to your parents this way.
It ain't my fault I stuttered.
Listen to me, you whining little whelp. You're going to stop that stuttering or get the hell out of here. You're going to stop it or go home. Do you hear me?
Son of a bitch.
What did you say?
You goddamn son of a bitch.
Say that again.
You goddamn mean son of a bitch.
Say it faster.
You goddamn mean dirty son of a bitch.
I wouldn't make it a habit calling me that, son.
That is not where I thought that was going. I thought he was about to, and this would have been stupid.
Don't get me wrong. Gay.
No, I thought he was about to be like,
you're not stuttering now.
You're not stuttering. Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
So there, I fixed it. Like it was going to be like a tough love, got the job done. And I thought he was going to give him like a wink and be like, see, I did it for you type of thing, which again would have been stupid. But like that was even more ridiculous because it wasn't really going anywhere other than him just calling that kid a stupid pussy or whatever at the end of it, like threatening to kick his ass.
Well, I think the beauty of John Ford, who I assume directed that movie just because it's a John Wayne Western movie. And I think the beauty of John Ford is like, it's implied that that's what he was doing, Trey. You know what I mean? But it's so funny because like I saw a bunch of people in the comments be like, yeah, that's how it used to be. And it worked. And it's like, no, it didn't. No, like, dude, if you know anything about the psychology of what makes you stutter, terrifying someone it will make it worse. Like that's
Right.
what you can't be scared out of stuttering.
And it's not just stuttering. You know, my oldest son had a terrible speech impediment as a little
Chuck
kid.
Chaplin.
And has been in speech therapy since he was 3 years old, and he's, you know, like he's just about over. He's still like, sometimes people think that he sounds like kind of British or something because of like as a side effect of his.
That's true. I've never
Like
thought
Fun
about that.
Battle
Maybe not now, but I remember a time when Chuck Chaplin definitely sounded a little British.
But he, you know, and I'm so obviously glad and grateful for all the speech therapy and stuff he's done over the years, and it's helped him tremendously. So it's insane for people to want to say that it was better that we didn't have that. But also, like, there's a guy, my grandpa's best friend, and they're both long dead now, but he was my next door neighbor growing up, and him and my grandpa have been friends for 50 years, 60 years, or whatever. He literally talked like Farmer Fran, speaking of Adam Sandler, like from is that from the Water Boy? Yeah.
We live a pint on our day.
Yeah.
Goddamn boy, by no damn.
Yeah. He's like, what is it? Or wait, no, that's a different thing. But yeah,
he came up again in Joe Dirt when he said,
"We like to see homo naked."
Yeah,
you like to see homo naked. That cool, man.
Yeah, it's like, no, homo, what you make it? Yeah, right.
Homie, what you make it?
This guy likes to see homos naked. That's fine.
That's
no,
cool.
You know, whatever. Yeah. Anyway,
No, homie, where you make it? Goddamn boy, everybody know that.
Goddamn boy. Yeah. He literally talked like that.
It's Blake Clark, by the way.
Yeah, Blake Clark,
phenomenal comedian.
Phenomenal
too.
Blake Clark. Yes, but this guy, my neighbor, he was like, he literally that come out that we don't dub his with that. Like you, I literally couldn't understand a word he said. My grandpa could just sit there while he did that for 30 seconds and then be like, yeah, okay. No, he went down to the bank and did the, you know, like he could understand every word of it, but I couldn't make any of it out. It's like, it's because he was in rural Tennessee, born in like 1935 or something. And they were just like, well, he just wrong. His mouth just wrong. He just be wrong forever.
So let him be wrong.
And that's just what happened. And that's obviously insane. But I will, you know, our buddy, friend of this universe, Donnie Singstack, has a lifelong stutter and is a very funny stand-up comedian in spite of it, but he still does have a stutter. And I didn't know, not that I'm overly surprised, but I didn't know until I got to know him and talked to him about it, that like, according to him, and I believe him, obviously, in many, many, many other places and cultures today, right now, they still don't really understand or acknowledge what a stutter actually is or how it works.
They just think you're being an idiot.
They think you're either slow, or you're like crazy nervous. They think it's like, no, just calm down, speak clearly. And it's like, no, it's a medical problem. But they don't, in many other places, they just don't, to this day, they don't acknowledge that it is like an actual affliction. They're just like, this person just needs to chill out and talk right.
There's different levels of it too, because like, you know, Donnie, I know that Donnie has had speech therapy and he still has a stutter, right? But there's different levels of it where like a lot of times nerves really do play a factor in it. Like, because I was going to say this saying that like before the 80s, there was no speech therapy. I know for a fact that's not correct because my father had to go to it when he was a child and he was born in 1959. My dad had a stutter.
Bill Walton also very famously had to work through a stutter as a young man and stuff.
Churchill,
Joe Biden, Joe Biden had to. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. But my dad, he had a light stutter and he had to go to speech therapy for like 2 years and they got it figured out. But my dad still, and he'll tell you this, like if he gets real agitated or whatever, it'll still kind of come back. And basically what they were saying was that, and I get this too. My wife accuses me of being Porky Pig sometimes. It's just that your brain gets ahead of your mouth. You know, your brain gets way ahead of your mouth and you can't, unless you take a couple deep breaths and you can't get it back or whatever. But like, you know, my dad, like per him when he was a kid, he couldn't talk without just being a baby.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that, getting agitated, but that's true for a ton of things. It will like exacerbate
the thing that you already have. Yes.
But I'm saying in other places, they literally think that that's just all that it is.
I know.
Is that the person is just a little nervous and so can't talk right or whatever.
They think that with everything, man. Like all the people, again, not to get, I won't even make this political, but like everybody acting like autism is this brand new thing, you know, And it's like, it's so easily debunked when they go like, there's more instances of autism now than there was in the 1920s. It's like, yeah, well, there's more instances of breast cancer now than there were in the 20s because they didn't know how to test for breast cancer back then. Used to, your titties just hurt and you died. You know what I mean? So like if you, it's like, you're going to say that in the same breath as you talk about how brilliant Einstein was, and he sat there and pooped on himself while he was at a chalkboard, and like fucking Steve Jobs wearing the same goddamn shirt every day and eating radishes for cancer and stuff. And you're going to tell me that none of these people had some sort of spectrumy bullshit going on? You're insane. Like so many of my dad's buddies that he played high school football with now, like they run around and just hit their head on the wall and stuff like that. And they're just like, yeah, they just be doing that. They hit their head on the wall stuff, but then they can, as soon as they do that, they can think better. But it's not autism or nothing, you know.
Well, that's actually a whole nother one that I used to reference briefly in a bit I had, but like in my hometown, like when I was a kid in my hometown, we barely even had like concussion. Like concussions, it's always says like you just got your bell rung. Like you just got
or
a child would get knocked out
unconscious
cold on the field. They'd be like, boy, he really got his bell rung in that game, but you know, we can get him back for too long.
Can he play? God damn it.
Can he play? But like, yeah, you know, so even that, like CTE and concussions and all that stuff, that's all very
I'm glad that you brought this up because this brings me to another clip I wanted to show you. It's my son, and I took this video, and I didn't, even though it's funny, I never shared it on the internet because I was like, I don't want to look like a bad dad. But it was almost like 6 months ago now, so I feel like enough time has passed. This is my son becoming Antonio Brown.
Got to get something to stick there. You're getting stout. You're getting stout, ain't you, son?
I know where this is going.
God damn it. I'm fucking shit.
Yeah. So nobody's going to think you're a bad dad for that because anybody who has children isn't going to, because we all know that once they start to toddle, they actively try to kill themselves at every moment of every day. And everybody with a toddler has seen them just smush their head.
Oh, so unreal.
But that's the thing. Like, you know, shout out to the fake Lord. He really controlled for that because when they're that age, they're essentially rubber.
This is the best time for him to hit his head.
They're rubber and bouncier. And that, you know, I know that sounds like bro science bullshit, but that is
it's not
pretty true. There's more cartilagey and less bony. Yes. They're just, they can take more hits and stuff because they need to be able to, because they hurl themselves in to dangerous objects all the fucking time. So, you know, thank God for that.
One of the biggest catch-22s the Lord ever did was not having a boy's frontal lobe finally attach itself until like 24. Because it makes for a lot of dumb decisions from 19-year-olds, but it also saves you from a lot of brain damage you could have got when you were that age. You know what I mean? But I think he's fine because I wanted to show you this other clip. I mean, my boy's counting like crazy. I was in the living room and I just kept hearing this sound of like stacking metal and stuff like that. And I walk in and Bane has broke open a case of Miller Lite and is taking all the beers out and stacking them on our fridge, but also using them as counting bears. Look how cute this is.
5, 6, 7, 8,
That
9, 10.
That's hilarious. Did you post that?
No, it just happened it happened right before we came up here. Literally, this happened right before I came up here. I just heard him going 5, 1, 2, 3, and I get in there and he's just counting beers like he said, like his mom asked him, how much is your dad going to drink on the front 9?
That's what I was about to say. That is such a it's like a scene or a skit from a movie about like a redneck dad.
He learned to count by Miller Lite.
He learned to count by Miller Lite cans or whatever. Yeah, it's like you should. I don't have any other pitches for it right now, but you should try to get him to do other similar type things to that. Make a little montage of like, you know, this is what it's like raising a kid in a redneck household or a redneck baby or something, and then make a little montage of it because it's like, it also, tell you what, nostalgic, takes me back. Cause
but you know what really I don't know if people like hearing us talk teary-eyed about our kids, but you know what really hurts my feelings about that video? He's saying the numbers perfectly, and he used to not do that. Like he would say 2, 3, 4, 5, and now he's saying them like they are. And I there's part of me that's like, I'm so proud that he's learning the actual words and he's enunciating them. But like, bro, he used to, when he would see a fish or his favorite thing, and he would see a fish and he would go, like he couldn't say the whole word. He'd go, and now he goes, fish. And I'm like, fuck you, man. Say fish again,
Yep, ain't nothing you can do about it, buddy. It's
depressing. But yeah,
no, it's bittersweet.
It's bittersweet.
Bittersweet is the right word for it. It's obviously it's what you want to happen, and it's heartwarming and all that too. But it is also, there's a sadness to it at the same time.
Amber didn't get how funny him counting the beers was. By the way, like it's
hilarious.
She was like, yeah, okay, whatever. He's counting beers. I was like, do you not think that was like a cosmic gift I just got from the earth that I got to film him doing that? That's fucking funny.
Yeah, and there would be, because again, how much things have changed. Like there would be people that would, again, I think if you made some little montage of it and made it clear, it's like, this is like a bit that I've contrived to have him do or whatever.
They might be more mad at that.
Even then, there'd be some people who would get pissy, but yeah, some people would be like, "Oh, that's not a good look, bro," or whatever. But it's like, I mean, we used to, toddlers, for a lot of redneck dads, especially, toddlers existed primarily as like beer delivery devices.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? It's like, give me a beer from the fridge, bring it in here, like that type of thing.
Dude, I got heat when I went to, our friends at Jim Beam, George Dickel. Our friends at George Dickel, I got to go to a private concert where War and Treaty was playing, and it was at their distillery because they were announcing their new 20-year aged whiskey or whatever. And they were real cool to me. I got to see the show, and then they took me on a tour or whatever, and then they gave me a bag, and they were basically just like, hey, you just put as much merch as you want in there. And I was like, okay. And like, I was like, yeah, but I want to get this jacket. It's like $250. I want to get it for my brother-in-law for Christmas. They're like, it's yours. You can have it. It's fine. And then one of the women came up. She's like, hey, I understand you have, I think Bane was like 9 months at the time. She's like, I understand you have a small boy. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, well, this is actually a dog toy, but I think it'll hit for him. And it was a little plush, squeaky George Dickel bottle, right? And I was like, yeah, it's great. So I gave it to Bane, and he loved it, and he'd play with it, and I took a picture, and there were people even then that were like, that's so fucking bullshit that you've got your son with a liquor bottle, like promoting all this stuff. And I'm like, it's a squish toy. You can't drink it.
Right. Yeah, no, it's, people get too caught up on shit. What are you gonna do?
Do we need to take a break?
No. Well, let's see. Where are we at? We're at like 30 something minutes. Let me do this one clip I had because it's short and it ain't related to nothing. So we'll just throw it in right here. But every now and then you see somebody and you think like, oh, they've got a real talent for something. I think maybe they're in the wrong profession. Well, this guy, and I think you'll agree, and of course it's a British feller. That's the only thing that makes this fit the show, is that it involves Brits. But I think this guy, if he decides to pursue it as a serious potential career as a thespian, a star of stage and screen, clearly very gifted as a natural actor, this guy right here. Can you see that?
I can.
Okay. This is from a news report from over in Bristol in the UK.
Story tonight. Would you like some coke with that? The takeaway in Bristol where cocaine was hidden underneath the bacon butties and burger buns. What? Nah, I never knew that. Main story tonight.
I want to do that one more time. Listen to the way he says what.
Cocaine was hidden underneath the bacon butties and burger buns. What? Nah, I never knew that.
That's like that reminds me of that clip of Trump going, well, you're just now telling me this for the first time. Well, I'm just now hearing this for the first time. That's so goddamn funny.
Again, that also is like a scene from a movie or something. It seems like an actor playing a person who's being terrible at, hiding being deceitful about something.
It's so great.
What? No. This place?
I'm just a skinny man that eats burgers here every day.
I just like the cold roll with a thick hunk of cheese that they offer as their premier item. They probably do.
It's such a British food.
I know. That's what I'm
with
saying.
A raw onion on top.
Right, with a raw onion on top. Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like whatever. I know the stuff you see online is getting in front of you for a reason because it backs up a narrative. But like almost every British sandwich,
it's so funny.
It literally still looks like peasant shit. It's like a trencher of old bread and a big hunk of indeterminate cheese. And like you said, a thick slice of raw onion. They put all that together and it's like proper pub nosh, isn't it? And it's like, how drunk are y'all?
Oh, man.
That shit is hitting for you.
I saw a meme the other day where it was like some British dude had shared like it was just two pieces of bread and like a raw onion or something. And another British dude retweeted it and was like, my brother, look up. We are not under siege anymore. Churchill is dead.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to live like this. That being said, though, these are also the people that brought us the Welsh rarebit, which like that is a hidden thing that I don't know why we don't. I mean, I know we do grilled cheeses over here, which is it's very similar. It is very similar, but like they go the extra step and make that cheese into a roux and then drizzle it on the bread.
They do a lot of stuff over there that does also hit.
What they do good is great.
Yeah, right. But like, if I hear that said a lot, and you've talked a lot over the years about your grandma, may she rest in peace, your granny, who like you always talk about some of the wild shit she liked, and you were like, well, she grew up during the Depression, and that just never left. And people said that about a lot of people of that generation. I think it was probably true. Well, that is what people say about British food,
of course,
because they were under rations at wartime, and it became necessity, and they just never pulled out of it. But it's like, do you think, like, how legit is that? Because like your granny was like that, and she passed a couple of those things to you. A couple, you're like, I like simple crackers and milk or whatever, but but as a society, America was like, well, now it's time to hit. And we started just immediately fatting up like crazy.
I think
you know what I mean? But over there, it seems they societally maintained a lot of those culinary inclinations that were developed during a time of great stress and trauma.
I'm so glad we're here because this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And it's going to sound racist here in a minute. Not at first, but it will in a minute. Like, yes, like because my granny, a lot of what their generation also dumped onto people was that under no circumstances do you have a steak with any pink in it. No pink in it whatsoever, right? And so that was true for everyone, no matter what the color was, and I get it, they didn't have good refrigeration systems back then. So you had to cook, as my granny would say, cook the devil out of it because that's the pink,
Yeah, and it was also just like regulations about food and beef and meat and stuff.
Of course,
contaminated meat could be more easily sold, and it wasn't a problem. Right. And now we're trying to get rid of all those regulations, so that'll hit again. But anyway,
yeah, for sure. And so a lot of older people, if you go to a barbecue, if an old white-haired dude is cooking your steak, he gonna cook the shit out of it. Like it's just gonna happen. And every now and then, if it's one of those like cheap, thin breakfast steaks and it's got enough fat and they marinate it in Dale. Okay, even if it's rubber, it still hits for me fine. It's just that if I was at a steakhouse, that ain't what I'm trying to do. And you go, well, that's just their culture. And you go, yeah, but at a certain point, don't you understand that like things have changed? Mm-hmm. Black people, okay, they still be like that sometimes. Mm-hmm. And like again, I'm. If you're listening to this and you're one of our black fans and you're like, I don't do that, like that's fine, and I understand stereotypes are wrong, but like, bro, I am very in tune with like internet food culture. Everything I follow on Instagram is food stuff. And every fucking comment on a, not even just rare, but like a medium rare or even a medium well steak, every one of them that's like, fuck, you got to cook the shit. You got to cook that more. It's always a black person. And I'm like, my brothers and sisters, I get that there was a time when that was true, but it ain't that anymore. We've got to move on. We've got to understand that things have changed, and it's totally fine to eat steak with a little bit of pink. And you know me, I'd rather eat a steak completely raw than cooked even a little bit further than medium rare.
Right. Yeah, the only thing I've definitely noticed that trend as well. I think that's an acknowledged cultural stereotype there.
Oh yeah,
but
I don't think any black person's mad at me for pointing that out.
The only
it's just
thing
true.
that I will also say, I mean, you kind of led with this, but you're talking about just like papaws and stuff. But I think that's one of those things like we've talked a lot about over the year where like there's a lot of overlap, and maybe it's like the South or whatever. I don't know. But there's a lot of like redneck people, especially like redneck women and stuff. In my experience, and I'm not talking about papaws. I'm saying even like younger ones who have the same hangups about meat. And I think with them, it's because they were raised by these papaws and mamas you're talking about who did that. And now I'm like you, I was too. Like my grandmother, who was a great cook, like she was like that.
But I learned that the times change.
At a certain point, I became an adult man and realized that it didn't have to be that way. Tried it the other way once and was like, oh my God, dude, what have I been doing my whole life? But like some people
never
don't ever get past that hang up that comes with it. Because it's not just that that's how their grandma or whatever makes it. They're taught that like, that's for safety reasons.
And by the way,
so they see juices and they're like, oh God, it's still half alive. It's bleeding. It'll make me sick. And it's like, that isn't true, but they just still think that,
And before we get comments, because I know this to be true, and I will definitely give black people more of a pass for it than just old white people. But with old white people, it was just like, we didn't have proper refrigeration, yada, yada, yada. But I have seen like some black person made this comment one time, and I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Where they were like, the reason that's such a thing in black culture is that back in the day, the butcher might give black people bad meat. Right. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, that's fair, except for now, you're the one that gets to pick it up. You know what I mean? Like, we're all getting the same thing. So it is different now. You know what I'm saying?
There's always different contexts with black people and a lot of that stuff. A lot of them were very skeptical of like the new COVID vaccines and shit. And they were like, well, listen, we had all that Tuskegee stuff. I don't know if you remember. And it's like, look, I know. Look, it's hard to blame any black person for for refusing to trust any iteration of the government of this country. Like I hear you.
Yeah. But I would say but the white people are getting the same shot that you get. But I can understand them being like, I don't know that.
Can you prove that?
I don't. Right, yeah. So no, I really do get it from that. I mean, I don't get it like it's never happened to me, but I understand the argument.
It's just a shame though, because you're just depriving yourself. You're depriving yourself of such great hits. We should also state, just in fairness' sake, that obviously
not all black people
in general in this country smash in the fucking kitchen. All the best parts of like Southern food culture and stuff come from them. We all know a lot of our white brethren, again, typically not really in the South, but elsewhere, don't know how to season shit. Black people know they seasoning. And they're great, but just specifically when it comes to cooked meat, it's got to be a lot of times it's got to be cooked to death, and that don't. Here's another
Here's another overlap though between rednecks and black people, because talking about not seasoning things, I actually saw a black person, which really hit for me on Twitter. They were like, this whole conversation about white people not seasoning stuff, they're like, I think that has to be referring exclusively to rich white people. He goes, because when trash white people, every single one of them I know has a bottle of hot sauce in their fridge that says anus prolapser.
Yeah.
Rednecks be seasoning shit like a motherfucker.
Well, it's weird because, yes, I agree. I always thought that too. When I first heard the jokes about white people not seasoning stuff, I was like, I mean, not my white people.
Not me too.
But again, I'm from the deep South. That's
I know
part
it's true.
Of it. But at the same time, there's I don't even know how to get into all this, but there are certain subsets of like white trash redneck Southern people
that do,
who have, instead of the more Southern soul food culinary traditions, they're more aligned with like Midwestern like canned soup crock pot culinary traditions. And I say this with nothing but love. My in-laws are one of those families, and those white people, both in the South and the Midwest and elsewhere,
I get it.
They don't get how things should work, and they don't season properly. They just throw a bunch of shit together in a pot and call it spaghetti or whatever, and it's weird and it needs to be stopped. But
the biggest example is like the Meat and Three, right? Like there'll be there's some meat and threes that are great, but then there's some meat and threes where like they really will just mash some potatoes and go, well, if they want salt and pepper, they can add that to it.
Insane.
You know what I mean? And then there will be like, you'll get macaroni and cheese and it won't have any flavor. And I'm sitting there going like, then how's it yellow? Yellow should taste like what the fuck? But if you go to a black owned soul food meat and three place, every single thing is fire. Fire. Because they're like, no, it shouldn't be on you to season it at the table. Like, I'm a season it. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, like so many places you go to get green beans and it's like, you couldn't even add salt. Like, not even salt. Like,
Right.
I understand you didn't want to hit it with the garlic and all that, but salt, you couldn't hit it with salt, you know? Like, so it is deserved. The scrutiny from black people to certain groups of white people is so deserved.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just like, yeah, it's white people, what are you going to do? We're not,
What are
in
you
so many
gonna
ways
do?
we do seem like a monolith, but in so many ways we're also not, like all peoples, I suppose. But yeah, I guess we could take a quick break and come back, and I've got a fun historical anecdote for you.
Oh, I'm excited. Well, let me pee.
Right after this.
All right, love you.
Love you too.
Y'all, I've always been a fairly old school type feller, you know, when it comes to movies, the sports players I liked, all that stuff. But when it comes to a wallet, I've found that I need that new tech because I've used to use one of those where I basically looked like George Costanza. It looked like a freaking suitcase in my back pocket. And I didn't realize at the time the damage it was doing to my back and also just how difficult it is to look through there and find everything. It's just a pain. It's a huge pain. And also it got so big that it was just like falling out of my wallet. And that's why I'm a big fan of Ridge because it is slim. It is easy to put in your pocket. You can hold 12 cards plus cash. They've got tons of colors. It's awesome. And it looks cool. It's the only time I've ever looked cool. It looks like you're using a wallet from the future. Like if I saw wallets in the movie Star Wars, which they don't ever show, I would assume that they look like my coral colored Ridge wallet. That's just how I feel. They're awesome. And they also have RFID or FID blocking technology, which keeps you safe from all the digital pickpocketers. And I've had that happen to me before. I had somebody scan me during Christmas and take all the money out of my account when I barely had any. And that was a huge bummer. So I love Ridge. Trae, tell them more about it.
Yeah, I think we all know, losing your wallet is the absolute worst. Most of us live in fear of that happening. I know I certainly do. But Ridge, they have an air tag attachment as well, so you'll always know exactly where your wallet is. No more panicking. You might even be able to, finally discard your patented pocket tap maneuver every time you stand up. That's the technology I've been using.
Me too.
For security for 20 years. Ridge has an air tag attachment, which is infinitely better. Time to join the future. If you're happy with your wallet, Ridge does a lot of other great things too. Premium everyday carry essentials. They got key cases, suitcases, rings. All of them are made with their trademark, sleek, durable, kick-ass looking design that they do over there at Ridge. And no matter which of their quality products you choose, Ridge offers free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and lifetime warranty. Now, them some perks, baby. So now, for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using the code POA at checkout. Just head to Ridge, RIDGE.com, and use the code POA, and you're all set. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that POA sent you. So that's 10% off at Ridge when you use the code POA at checkout at ridge.com, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.
Yeah, they hit.
Y'all want to tell you about our sponsor this week, True Classic. Been our sponsor for a little bit now. We're big fans over here at POA, I tell you, because at True Classic, their mission goes beyond fit and fabric. They want to help guys show up with confidence and purpose. That's right. They got gear for you. I'm telling you right now, I know, because even if you think you can't find clothes that fit, clothes that hit, clothes that make you look good, I certainly understand what that feels like. I commiserate with you. Me and Cho have talked a lot about how both of us in different ways, but we're kind of shaped oddly. We're oddly shaped gentlemen. I've struggled to find clothes that fit me right literally my entire life. So I mostly just walk around looking like a displaced mannequin that somebody's showing off how to not dress on. That's what I mostly look like until I found True Classic anyway, because their gear is made to fit you right and it feels amazing at the same time. It's comfortable and it fits the way you want it to in all the right places. It's tight where you want shirts to be tight, and it's loose where you want shirts to be loose, i.e. you gut, it shows off the good parts and, sort of covers up the bad parts, just makes you look your absolute best. And on top of all that, it's priced at True Classic. It's priced so that guys everywhere can step into confidence without stepping out of their budget. But what really sets them apart at True Classic is the intention that comes behind everything they do over there as a company. True Classic was built to make an impact, and that's whether it's helping men show up better in their daily lives, giving back to underserved communities, or making people laugh with ads that don't take themselves too seriously. Fart. They lead with purpose over there at True Classic. Joe, tell them more.
I mean, they got clothes that fit, they got clothes that hit, and they got clothes that, if you don't mind me saying so, are too legit to quit. I've been wearing them for a very long time, and I echo what Trae says. They just fit in all the right places, and I don't feel so boxy. And, I would say the only negative thing about True Classic, just to be honest, is that they give me a false sense of what I actually look like. They make me, I'll put them on, I'll be like, oh, see, you're doing good. You know what I mean? You're doing great. Then I'll take my shirt off and I'm like, cheesecake. You know what I mean? But again, that's the only negative thing about them, but that's a great thing. They fit everywhere. I'm telling you, dude, obviously you should work out and try to live your life better, but just by wearing a True Classic shirt, literally will look like you've been in the gym for a couple months compared to all your other shirts. It's absolutely fantastic. They're comfortable. They're not expensive. It's great stuff. And by the way, you can grab them at Target, Costco, or you can head to trueclassic.com/POA and get hooked up today. And obviously, we would prefer if you did that. Go to trueclassic.com/POA. That way you can get hooked up. They'll know that we sent you. And also, you can check out all of the great things that True Classic is doing. And you can look like someone who hits, even if you don't.
Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong it'll knock your socks off and your wiener's socks off. Knock your wiener. It'll knock your wiener socks off too. It will.
Think about those tiny little. Only person I know that has a wiener sock is Anthony Kiedis.
Yes,
but I'm thinking about not a sock that goes on a wiener, but a wiener that has socks on his balls.
Yes, I thought the same thing, but you're right. It makes more sense, the Red Hot Chili Peppers version. But if you think about it, what I said makes sense. If you were wearing one of those wiener socks and you tried Blue Chew's new combo, it will fling that sock right off. So I stand
into the
by
crowd at Live Aid. Yes,
that's right. And what I'm talking about is Blue Chew Max. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. It's a combo that acts fast and it lasts. So guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew for free. That's right. I said free. Great sex is just a few clicks away when you sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the US of A, prepared and shipped directly to your door. That's the best part of the whole thing. It's done entirely on the internet there, which means no more physical visits to the doctor's office and having awkward wiener-based conversations with them. No more waiting in line at the pharmacy for your wiener pills and running into your old principal or none of that. You do it all on the internet, and Blue Chew, it hits. H-O.
Oh, it hits so hard. A lot of people always ask me, does it work? And I'm like, dude, it makes my dick harder than coming to terms with the fact that we will never, and I mean never, see world peace. You know what I mean? And I love it. I've been using it for, 8 years now, which is about how long they've been sponsoring us. And again, I tell this to everybody, it doesn't mean that you have a problem with your sling schlong. Because I know a lot of you are thinking, like, I don't need that. I get bricked up all natural. That's great. I'm just telling you that, you'll be able to hit the ball longer and further if you enjoy this little blue tablet, this little treat. You know what I'm saying? Like, my wife knows if I come in and my tongue is blue, ooh, she through. You know what I'm saying? Blue Chew will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That is the mission. And everybody could use an extra hand because we all know that confidence is the sexiest thing that you can get. You got more horsepower with these things, right? Here's a real comment someone had about Blue Chew. I cut diamonds with my tip, dude. That may or may not have been me. It's fantastic. Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew for free. That's completely free. I thought it was a typo, but it's not. When you use promo code POA, all you got to do is pay $5 shipping. That's promo code POA. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. And Trey,
get you a new dick.
Why wouldn't you? Done with this old one.
All right, and we're back, everybody. Welcome back from the break. I said right before we left, I had a little tale from history that I know Cho is going to appreciate. This is from ancient Rome. In fact, every red-blooded American man loves to hear tales from ancient Rome, just in general, especially ones you hadn't heard before. Maybe you have heard this one. I had not. But it also is great because I've come to appreciate, a lot of times in this show, we make fun of people in the past, make fun of how dumb the past is, how dumb people in the past were. And I think there's some truth to that, and it is fun to do. But I also have an appreciation for anything from the ancient past that illustrates like the consistency of human nature, I guess. The way that we haven't changed really in certain ways. You know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. What is this relevant to a thing you had to talk about?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and this is a story in that vein that I found. So me and Cho are, Cho, generally speaking, how you feel about critics and in particular your own critics that you might have?
Unnecessary evil, if that could be a necessary evil, because like there's like, it's, you know, a lot of people like to just shit on critics without even once mentioning that if it were not for them, there's a lot of art that wouldn't ever be shown to people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like we, you know, if someone praises your movie, you love a critic, even though it's the same job. You know what I mean? Like that person that praised your movie being a critic, their job was to watch your movie and see what was good about it and tell everybody if it was good or not. And you just happen to like the outcome. But if you don't like the outcome, then you go, fuck it. Critics shouldn't exist. You know, they're no talent people. It's if you can't do, teach, you know, it's all that sort of stuff. But like, again, necessary evil. I think some of them, modern day critics, especially because I'm a big Star Wars fan or whatever. It seems like some of them go into criticism going like, I'm just going to talk about shit that sucks and point out things that are awful. And I think we could do with a lot more critics that went into things going, let's accentuate the positive, but that doesn't get you clicks. But I will say that as much as I can hate my own critics, I do find them necessary in order for me to exist.
I think that's a pretty enlightened stance on the whole thing, because I've always thought that too. A lot of people, a lot of creatives, not just creatives, athletes especially, get really upset about critics, commentators, and stuff. And Teddy Roosevelt, I think it was, wrote that very famous sort of invective about critics and everything. It's like it's the man in the arena who counts, not the, you know, whatever. Right. It's like,
I agree with that, but
it's a very common thing. Especially people don't like being criticized, and a lot of people are creatives and or athletes. They're like, critics ought not even be here. But it's like you just said, I've always thought like, well, the fact that they even exist is what like allows you to make them to make money doing what you do.
What
like if there were no critics, no one would give a shit about what you do, which means you wouldn't get paid to do it.
That's what I'd say about to Teddy Roosevelt's thing when he says the man in the arena is the one who counts. There's a lot of people that wouldn't know about the man in the arena if a critic didn't tell everybody this man in the arena is worth seeing.
Right. So it's like, it just comes with the job description is kind of what I've always thought. Like, you just got to be able to put up with it. But look, nobody likes
occupational hazard.
If you, even when it comes to like commenters and stuff, sometimes a shitty comment, it makes me chuckle. I'm like, well, you got me there or whatever. And then other times I'm like, this motherfucker, and it pisses me off.
Yeah, me too.
You can't help but get upset about it. Yeah, I know we all know you can get defensive.
But I've gotten better about ignoring most of them because I let most of them go.
Yeah. Well, apparently this has been a long-running theme for creatives across humanity, and there's another element to this that's consistent with modern culture. There was in ancient Rome, the late Republic era, circa 84 to 54 BC, there was a famous Roman poet known as Gaius Valerius Catullus. Catullus was what he went by primarily. You know, back then, poets were like, you know, he was like the Kendrick Lamar of his day, I suppose, or whatever. But like he was, you know, there was a group of hitting poets in Rome, and he was one of them. He was from a wealthy family, naturally, and people were just like, man, you know, He sure knows how to make words hit, right? And he wrote a ton of poems about a ton of different things, but a lot of his poems and a lot of his most famous poems at the time, the most popular poems, were erotic in nature, right? They're in romance and eroticism and human sexuality and that type of thing. And here's the other thing that's consistent. Because of that, writing about women and how they hit and writing softly of their features and everything, there were a couple of other contemporaries of his named Aurelius and Furius, right?
Is that where we get that word?
Yeah, I don't know.
He was just mad at women. He's furious.
Right, but they were not fans of this. They said, because of the nature of what he talked about in his erotic poems and stuff, he was not a real man, right? He was a sensitive pussy bitch. Pussiest bitches, I believe, is how you said that in Latin.
Yes, yeah, of course, pussiest bitches.
That's the type of shit that these guys were talking about him because of the content of his poems. So after that, he wrote a poem dedicated to them and to their criticism of him.
I've done this before.
This poem known today as Catalyst 16, went like hundreds of years without being properly translated, because people that translated Latin in colleges and universities and educators and stuff like that, when they got to this poem, they would just be like, I'm just going to skip that one because of the content and nature of it. People, like, for so many years, people were like, that's too graphic to be translated.
Right.
And it only got translated into English in like the 20th century or something. Finally, somebody had the balls to translate Catalyst 16. And I'm going to read you. I'm trying to decide. It's a hard choice. There's a kind of more. There's the first
Say
English.
It.
There's a first. It's just that I can't decide which one hits more. We'll go with. Maybe I'll mix them up.
I was gonna say, read them both.
A couple different English translations that have gained popularity. People are like, this is pretty legit. This is the translation. The modern English translation of the poem Catalyst 16 that he directed at his critics, Aurelius and Furius. Here it goes. I'm quoting this directly, as you all know. Fuck you, boys, up the butt and in the mouth. You queer Aurelius and you fag Furious. You size me up on the basis of my poems because they're a little sexy and not really decent. For it's proper for a devoted poet to be moral himself, but in no way is this necessary of his poems. In point of fact, these have wit and charm. If they are sensitive and perhaps a little shameless and may arouse an itch, and I don't mean in boys, but in the hairy old men who can't get it up because you've happened to read about my many thousands of kisses. You think I'm not a man? Fuck you, boys, up the butt and in the mouth.
Yes.
Signed,
yes.
Catalyst. The other more like, I guess, whatever, proper translation is the first and last sentence. The first and last lines of the poem are, I will sodomize and face fuck you. Bottom Aurelius and Catamite Furious. And then he goes on from there. But like,
amazing.
It's just because it's also like a lot in keeping with this theme. I think everybody's heard now because it became a popular fact, fun fact after the internet and everything. But like in like Pompeii, where Vesuvius erupted and froze parts of it in time, you can find in the public baths in Pompeii that are preserved from then since then, bathroom graffiti that say things like, Furious sucks dicks, for a good time, call Aurelius Furious. Or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like the same type of shit that people write in bathroom graffiti today, you can find in ancient Pompeii. And this is another example of that. This guy, he got some criticism that he didn't particularly appreciate and responded in kind. But it's just fun. You don't think about, this guy was like an erudite, upstanding, artist and intellectual in ancient Rome.
Yeah.
And
well, I too feel like I feel like I too am an artist and intellectual of like the modern age, and I wasn't going to do this, but since you've brought this up, and I actually have an example of me doing the exact same thing, and also this was behind my paywall, and it's never been read. No, not many people have ever heard it. I'm very proud of this because I did the same thing to one of my critics, and I did it. I did it, but I did it in a way that will super hit for you because it's turning it on itself. So what happened was, Trey, I had tweeted one time. I was out in the park and I took a picture of some deer, and I made a video about it. And the caption is, y'all ever wonder if national park deer know how good they got it? Because as you know, national park deer can't be shot,
Mm-hmm.
and me and you, I pitched a Pixar type movie to you about, and I still want to do it, but it's about like national park deer. Like one of the park deer he leaves the national park, he gets lost or whatever, and he goes to the regular woods where deers are getting shot, and he comes back and tells them all about it, and they just don't believe him because they've been living in this bubble. So in the video, I was talking something about that, but I said, y'all ever wonder if national park deer know how good they got it? And someone quote tweeted it and said, the word y'all is only used by those with no vocabulary, a turnoff. And then they tagged me, right? And they were a former fan of mine because I went and they'd retweeted me, but like told me it was a turnoff that I used the word y'all, which I can't imagine you've been a fan of mine and just now heard me say y'all. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I do not understand how you can become a fan of either one of us if you're also the type of person who has that much of a vitriolic response to the word y'all. Yeah. Also, as many people have pointed out, y'all is gender inclusive.
I've said it
also
before.
Like
y'all, dude,
but also y'all,
buttheads.
Y'all has propagated at least around parts of America. Do you know what I mean? It started out very, very southern in nature, but dude, now you'll hear people in every region of this country saying y'all because it's a useful word. It's a very
useful word.
I feel like I know for a while initially it was a sign of hillbillydom or whatever, but I feel like culturally this country has very much come around on the word y'all in the intervening decade. So this person don't know what they're talking about.
No, they don't. And I let them know that in an essay. I was very proud of myself at first because I'm not responding to them. And then I went, and it's true I didn't comment to them, but I went and wrote an entire essay. And this essay is called Don't Know No Words Too Good. Mm-hmm. Right. And it starts off with me talking that their quote, y'all is only used by those with no vocabulary, a turnoff. I was recently told that people who use the word y'all only do so because they otherwise have a terrible vocabulary. Now, I ain't much one for throwing fits and getting my feathers ruffled over something no bigger than a bug's ear, but that pertner sent me to hollering. Why, I do declare that if I've done had my fill of liquor that evening, I'd run the risk of showing my ass. If I'm being honest and not telling tales out of school, I'm a touch ashamed that I let that city slicker about give me the vapors, such as she did. Matter of fact, I could do without not hollering on the internet so much as I already do. Don't do no one a lick of good know-how, but I expect it's how I put victuals on the table for me and the little lady, and I sure wouldn't want her to be cross with me. Yep, it's a simple life we live, but hell, we get by just fine, I reckon. I know she wonders every now and again how better she'd fare if she were to have run off with the man from the bank years ago instead of hitching her wagon to an old yellow-toothed, no-sense-having country bumpkin orator such as myself. Boy, I sure am glad she sticks around and keeps the home fires burning, I tell you what. Yeah, I didn't do much in the way of school learning back in my early days. Pa always figured it'd be a waste, seeing as how all I wanted to do was stand around and spin my yarns to anyone who'd listen. I reckon I took to telling stories because I'd grown up shucking beans on Meemaw's porch, listening to the hill people we call cousins jibber-jabber on about this, that, and the other, and it seemed as good a way as any to pass the time between sunup and sundown. Those, of course, were the only times of day us simple folk knew, seeing as how clocks were for rich people and those from Connecticut. Maybe one day if I save up all the money I usually use to buy scratch-offs and I can afford to go to one of them fancy word schools I hear tell of all the time. I reckon this lady on Twitter that give me the what for on my speaking failures must have went to one, otherwise she wouldn't know that I said such a stupid thing. I just hope that she don't scroll back too far and find all the stupider stuff I said. Excuse me, stuff I said that is more stupid. God, I hope I get it that right. I hope she understands that I never knew I'd have to know so many words. Where I'm from, we only need about 6 or 7. Hey, Billy, Where's the fish been biting best at? And that was usually enough to get us by. And don't even get me started on how I can't count. When I look at numbers, all I see is squiggles. When I'm trying to figure out how much money I've got in my wallet, I have to go by the men's hairstyles printed on the bills. I know that the one worth the most is that bald feller. Unfortunate head he's got on him. Reckon that's why they didn't let him be president? Either that or because he spent all day flying kites like a damn toddler. I reckon I would have seemed smarter if I'd been born 200 some odd years back. Oh well, we have to play the hand we are dealt, even if we can't read the cards. When we was kids, instead of spelling contests, we'd just line up in rows of 3 and chunk possums into old whiskey barrels. If you tossed a second possum in before the first possum climbed out, you got 5 points. Since none of us could count that high, we'd just start the game over after that. It wasn't much, but it was all we had, and it kept us off the streets, you know. I had this one possum we called Cheryl the Possum. We'd turn her loose at the candy store, and she'd pop back out with a mouthful of jawbreakers. All you got to do is wipe them off with one of your mama's dish rags, and hot damn, boy, you got yourself a free jawbreaker. Skew! I wish I knew that when I started playing around on the interwebs that my lack of fancified word knowing was going to get me in a whole mess of trouble. I reckon if I did, I wouldn't have bothered. Call me a pie-in-the-sky simpleton, but I thought as long as people could understand what you was trying to say, that it ain't matter much how you said it. I always figured true smarts was being able to figure stuff out even if it wasn't written all proper like. I guess some folks lack the capacity, though, and need it all laid out for them. I'll be more mindful of that going forward so as to hopefully help out these folks who are so smart that they need to let everyone else know how dumb other people are. Yep. Growing up in the modern world was hard for someone like me who don't know no words too good, but I fared pretty well due to the kindness of strangers. Mom always said, boy, that crooked grin will take you further than a basket of $5 words ever would. You hear me? Mama always knew what to say. Maybe she'd been around a bunch of real smart northern folk in her day. Hell, I don't know. One thing I do know, however, is that we had love, and love don't care how it's spelt. Y'all take care now. Fuck that bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very much implied, but yes, that's hilarious. I did not know you had done that when I chose to tell that story of Ketulus, but I mean, I knew that you would relate to and appreciate it because I know how you are. I didn't know you had literally done that thing.
Yeah, I'm proud of that's one of my most proud essays that is for an audience of one.
Yeah, right. Well, spite's a fantastic motivator.
But I still think critics are good. You know what I mean? And all I was doing was criticizing her criticism.
Right.
In a way. And that's what it is like some people just don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to have a conversation. They're like, I'm going to put this thing out and then that should be it. And it's like, no, dude, there has to be a conversation. Otherwise, why'd you put it out? You want people to talk about it. And if you want people to talk about it, some of that's going to be negative, and you've just got to deal with that in the way that you can. And for me, it's to write an essay.
Yeah, the argument that most annoys me from some people, again, both creatives and athletes, is that, and even people who aren't, even people that are sometimes defending something they like against criticism, they'll make the argument of like, well, I'd like to see you do better, right?
It's like, well, that's not fair.
I've always been like, I'm sorry, but that don't have anything to do with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because so literally no one, if LeBron James has a bad game, no one on earth is allowed to say that about him except for Michael Jordan.
Right.
Michael Jordan is the only person who can acknowledge that if LeBron does have one bad outing, it's like, that's insane. Also, like, I guarantee you there's plenty of athletes who feel that way about sports people that criticize them, who would go see a movie and be like, oh, that movie sucks or whatever. And it's like, well, you can't make a better movie. So just because someone can't play a better game than you doesn't mean they can't acknowledge if you fucked it up. Just like you could say that about a movie. And the same thing is true for just people that watch movies or whatever in general. The capacity to make one better has nothing at all to do with your ability to recognize the quality of someone else's contribution. So it's like, I get that it's annoying and critics can annoy me too. Don't get me wrong. But it's just asinine. Argument just don't work for me. I've always been kind of annoyed by it.
Every single person on the PGA Tour is a better golfer than me by a mile. But I can still go, it was dumb to try a flop shot there when a bump and run would have worked. Like I don't know why they were trying to show off. Like it's fair for me to do that. Now again, like every argument would be shut down by going like, "Oh, really? Is that what you a 15 handicap would have done?" And it's like, I mean, yeah, and that is. I promise you, in the presser, they'll say, "I wish I'd have bumped and run that." Now, obviously, it's like easy to Monday morning quarterback when you're not in that situation, but it is stupid to act like no discussion should be had about something stupid because this person's better than you. You know, It's like they are better than me, so they should have known. They should have known.
I feel like everyone knows that you don't have to be able to cook like Gordon Ramsay to know if a dish is like made well, if it tastes good, or if it's made poorly and it tastes like shit, it's not seasoned or whatever. You don't have to be a chef to know that and acknowledge it. And it's the same with other shit too. So yeah, I don't know. Critics are, it's an interesting subject. It's like you said, it just depends. Some of them are great and some of them are fucking insufferable. It's like you were saying earlier, like it's situational for me. Cause some of them I'm like, okay, what, like what are you really trying to do here? Like you just, or some of them can be very pretentious. They're up their own ass. It's like you go out of your way to, there's certain things you're always going to like because you feel like you're supposed to, and there's certain things you're always going to dislike because you feel like you're supposed to. And it's like, if you could sniff that kind of thing out, it's like, well, fuck this person.
Yeah.
If someone's like intellectually honest about it and
I think
even-handed, then fine.
I think we get most frustrated with critics, and I think this has always been a thing. We get most frustrated with critics, or I do personally, when that critic seems to have a very clear agenda, very clear agenda, and therefore they go into everything wanting, like, they already have their idea and you have to disprove them instead of just going in with a blank slate and going, was this good? Like there's a dude who I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I watch, YouTubers that break down Star Wars because I like to go, oh, wow, I never really thought about it. Like I enjoy that, And there's this one dude who his name is like Star Wars Theory, right? And he claims to be the biggest Star Wars fan ever. Like if you don't agree with him on every Star Wars take, you're clearly not a fan. And every single one of his videos is about how this thing in Star Wars sucks. Like that's it.
Well, they say it's a cliche that no one hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans.
And that's why, I go on podcast,
which is true.
The Wheels.
I think that's true.
No, it's true.
Like if you're just like casual about it, like me, it's like you can watch a movie and be like, "Well, that was a fun time." Or I didn't particularly care for that, but you don't get riled up. But fans will be like, "This has ruined my childhood."
Yeah,
was what this has done. It's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and so our buddy, friends of the show across the galaxy, and podcast of the Wheels is a very good Star Wars podcast that I go on a lot. And I've become sort of a fan favorite on there because I take the position of I like Star Wars and I go into it wanting to like it. And sometimes I'll go, that wasn't for me, but I don't go fuck all of Star Wars for this, And I also like to this guy who is like, he claims to be the biggest Star Wars fan, but he's liked nothing within the past 20 years. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but if there's a franchise that is 50 years old and you haven't liked anything within the past 20, I don't think you're a fan. You don't like it. Like, you don't like it. So just say you don't like it, but don't say, like, as a true Star Wars fan. It's like, bro, just go watch the original trilogy and shut the fuck up. Like, again, did I have some problems with what Disney did to Star Wars? Of course, it wasn't what I would have done. But I wasn't the one that did it. They didn't ask me, And I'll just go, guess what? In my rewatch, I won't watch this again because I didn't like it. And I could talk with you intelligently about the things that I thought were wrong. But the people that have an agenda, I feel they go into them going, I already hate this. And so it confirmed, like, you're just getting confirmation bias the whole time. But, like, dude, me and you went and saw The Last Jedi together. And is it one of my favorite Star Wars movies? No. But I went into it. We bought tickets to it. Therefore, if I buy tickets to something, I go, I want to like this. Was it great? No. But I laughed. I had a good time. It was dumb. Who gives a fuck? It's spacey shit. You know what I mean?
It's even worse because it was actually the last one, right? When DJ went with it.
Rise of
Skywalker. And yeah, it's like you said. I mean, look, dude, and I'm not going to lie. That movie, I find like very little to try to justify or defend, but we still did have a good time that day. Like you said, in part because we were laughing about it.
We were laughing so hard.
And laughing about it afterwards and stuff. So, I mean, but still, we did have a good time at the theater watching it,
And if me and you were to sit here and talk about our problems with that movie, I think that we could have an intelligent conversation about, like, everything that was done in it that was, like Like, dude, they fucked Finn over. Not a great storyline. A lot of it was stupid, but I went into the movie going, I want to like this because I'm a Star Wars fan. Whereas a lot of people go, they watch Star Wars like this and they go, you better change my mind. And I'm like, motherfucker, just go watch Slow Horses. Mm-hmm. You don't like this. Like, you don't like this. And that's fine. But, like, I could watch, like, dude, the prequels, they're so dumb. I watch them all the time because I just decided, you know, like I said this thing a long time ago is like all your dreams can come true if you just change what your dreams are. You know, and I feel that way about movies. I go, if I just go into the Star Wars prequels going, they're real dumb, but they're entertaining, I love them every time. If you go into it hoping that it's going to be the Citizen Kane of sci-fi, you're fucked. You know what I mean? You're fucked.
Yeah, just watch the Dune movies again or whatever.
I do have something that I want to talk about. How much time do we have left? I know you have to leave.
I got like 25 minutes where I need to be done. So whenever, but if you're going to do airmail too, we got like 15 more minutes before airmail.
I'm editing stuff on the way. Oh, I do want to show you this. I want to show you this one thing because this is something I feel like critics can't be mad at. Everyone must like this. Are you familiar with Chapel Roan?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know who Chapel Roan is. She is. Drew's a big fan. Me and him talked about it on Well Read once when you weren't there.
Well, she has music that you wouldn't think would hit for Papaws, but here's a Papaw singing Pink Pony Club, and I dare anyone to say that this isn't hauntingly beautiful. Take a listen.
Hey, you've got it muted, but
I do.
Is this? Are we going to get like dinged for this?
I think if we just chat during it, it's fine. Okay. Also, like he hasn't. I don't think he's put this out on Spotify or anything. But either way, I want it to be shown. This is an old feller singing Pink Pony Club. He does this with a lot of other songs, and I think it's proof of, like, you can take lyrics and the words themselves, if you put them in a different way, people would enjoy them. Check this out.
I can't ignore the crazy visions of me in LA.
It's like Bowie.
I heard that there's a special place where boys and girls can all be.
Don't you get a little Bowie from it?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm having wicked dreams of leaving Tennessee.
I love this.
Santa Monica, I swear it's calling me. Won't make my mama proud. It's gonna cause a scene. She sees
also, whoever's playing piano rules.
I know she's gonna scream, God, what have you done?
So great.
You're a pink pony girl, and you dance at the club. Oh, mama, I'm just having fun on stage in my heels. It's where I belong.
Isn't that fucking great?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like, I love
fantastic.
I don't know if that guy. This is one of those things where I don't know if when they made it, they were like, people will think this is funny, or if they were like, people will think this is beautiful. But I think it's both. You know, I think it's just great, and also it's like, those same lyrics that you might think like, oh, Chapel Roan, she's a poppy girl or whatever. You hear this old David Bowie type dude singing, and you're like, this is poetry, man.
Yeah, I think that I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like when it's that particular type of talent and depth of it, I think there's like a sincerity to it. It's a big thing on Instagram where they do. Yeah. And I mean, and he crushed it. So rightfully so, but there's then there's a lot of, I was going to say one of the hitness aspects of Instagram for me is finding those like cover versions of songs and stuff. Cause like a lot of them are like
McGlockley, my boy
funny
McGlockley.
On purpose. That guy is awesome. Those are one where it's
one
like
of the most, he's like the Paul McCartney of his generation.
Yeah, he's wild, dude. But he's an example of like, he's definitely both where it's like, we're all acknowledging this is these mashups are a funny thing to even exist. But then he absolutely destroys while doing it. And so it's like just unironically awesome at the same time.
Will you, when I start my next thing, will you look up one of McGlocky's like better ones so we can show it? Like, I'm going to do this thing though. And so I'll give you time because of that video. You know what it reminded me of in a weird way was, do you remember the sketch you wrote called Rap Class?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my favorite sketches ever that we never got to release because the person that directed it was not good at it. But the concept was wonderful. And what Trae did was back in our Black Liver days when we wrote sketches and tried to film them for the internet, he had this wonderful sketch called Rap Class. And it was basically like, what if in the future there's a professor breaking down the lyrics of trap songs the same way that we break down Shakespeare stuff, right? That was pretty much it, right?
Yes.
Well,
yeah,
I was listening to a
college in the future where they were the students were in a class called Early 21st Century Hip Hop.
Hip hop, yeah. And I was thinking about that in the shower because a 2 Chainz song came on, and for some reason I just started rapping it in a British voice, and I was like, this would be really funny. And so I went to a website and got the top 20 funniest 2 Chainz bars, and I would like to perform them to you in Shakespeare, if that's okay.
Love it.
And then if there's any that you want to do later in your Scottish voice, that'd be fine. But here I go. These are 2 Chainz lyrics. I'm so high, I can sing to the chandelier. My flow a glass of Ace of Spade, yours a can of beer. Wonderful.
Love it.
You know I look like a safe. I put you back in your place. I look you right in the face. Sing to your bitch like I'm Drake. And then, of course, who could forget, drinking breast milk out of a lean cup. Turn the camel toe into a casserole. Ass so big, I told her, look back at it. Okay, now catch up to my campaign. Coupe the color of mayonnaise. Got a Chanel chain on top of Chanel chain on top of Chanel chain on top of Chanel chain. Goddamn!
So, just so everybody know, that sketch you was talking about, that again we filmed, but it was terrible quality, so we never put it out. The professor of the class in that sketch, basically, the accent was essentially what he's doing right now. So the professor would pretty much, the sketch was kind of just this. It was just but that guy, that professor. Well, but then also some of the students were like arguing about the lyrics and stuff like that. But the meat of it was just what he's doing right now.
But it's also just
the whole sketch.
It's also just so fun to do. Like, if you read these 2 Chainz lyrics regular, they're still funny. But reading them like this is so much funnier. Like this one, it's so simple. But listen, and by the way, this is brilliant. Wood grain, chestnut, titty fuck, chestnut.
Chestnut. Yes.
Every line is dope. You can snort it. Working in the pot, I can make you do aerobics. 2 Chainz. Horsepower, all this polo on. Well, I've got horsepower. So stupid. Dipping it like fondue. Spinach dip, cheese stick, appetizers, entrees. It's you in that lingerie. I mean, if you say it like this, it all seems, pretty highbrow.
Yeah, one of my favorites also, because I remember one time back in that same era when we were doing those sketches and stuff, so 15 years ago or whatever, we were having a after comedy catch show party at your place that you lived at there, and everybody's hammered. It's 2 a.m. Our buddy Ryan Darling is there, and I don't even remember
From
what
Good
brought
Cop,
this
Bad
up.
Cop. Go see him.
But there's a bunch of people outside on the porch smoking cigarettes or whatever, and Ryan Darling gets up and gives a sense that he's drunk, and in the context it made more sense, but he gets up and I swear to God, he goes in the word, he gets up and he says, he gives this like very serious and relevant quote to whatever had been talked about, and then at the end he goes, Abraham Lincoln, right? And I stood up immediately and I went, rest in peace to all the soldiers who died in the service. I died in her cervix. 2 Chainz. So that was always a favorite of mine.
This is actually one of the lyrics, I think, from the original sketch, which I love so much, and I love it more said by like Shakespeare. Then put a fat rabbit on the craftmatic. Mm-hmm. I am so high, attic. I am so high like an addict. Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this. And also, I don't think I ever put this on anything. Like, this was literally just for you. Although, maybe we might have put it on a very early opening to a well-read episode. But it's
how many hilarious
things
have we done just for each other?
But I called you once and left a voicemail, and I'm going to butcher my own thing because this is literally 9 years ago or whatever, but it's relevant to what we're talking. And I said, I was like, it was like, Joe, I reach out to you tonight, hoping that the years have treated you well and that you're doing fine wherever the wind has blown you. As for me, I find myself on the eve of a great and terrible battle, along with a company of fighting men. And this is it. The trumpets sound at dawn. They say that many of us will not survive this row, and I'm sure that that's true. And I'm writing to you to tell you that if I am to be among them, if I'm not to survive this battle tomorrow, I just want you to promise me. I want you to promise me one thing, Joe. You promise me this. When I die, bury me inside the Gucci store.
Gucci store.
Which is from Birthday Song,
That's
obviously.
dude, you're more brilliant for that than anything you've ever done. I'll give you one more, and then I'm going to just have a general discussion. My wrist deserves a shout-out. I'm like, what up, wrist? My stove deserves a shout-out. I'm like, what up, stove?
What up, stove?
Amazing.
Yeah. All-time classic, that one.
It's unbelievable. And we should never forget, she's got a big booty, so I call her Big Booty.
What else would one call her?
I mean, I don't know. I
Yes.
don't know. And by the way, and I know that we're ending our time here, I'm really pumped because now I have more to add to next week. The reason I was talking, you mentioned earlier about vocabulary through the times or whatever. Just giving a tease of next week, what I want to talk about. Before I share this clip that we will end on, what I wanted to talk about was there was this girl who she went very viral on Twitter lately talking about the Constitution. And by the way, so much of what she says I agree with. She was talking about, she's like, she goes, everybody talks about the forefathers and the Constitution as if these are things that can't be changed, you know. She's like, but you got to understand, these motherfuckers own slaves and these motherfuckers did that. And I'm like, I agree with you, whatever. You know, that's all true. You're right. We shouldn't hold our country to the standards of how people thought in the 1700s, yada, yada, whatever. But then she goes on this thing talking about how, like, the forefathers was dumb, you know, like they was actually dumb. And she sort of went into your bit, but she was saying it in earnest about how, like, you know, our 12-year-olds have more access to knowledge than the people in the 1700s did. And I'm like, that's true. That's true. But she kept going about basically talking about how our forefathers were like slack-jawed yokels and shit like that.
Right.
And I just, you know, again, I agree with her that the Constitution absolutely should reflect the modern times. But I was like, them people they weren't stupid. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
and
I said the bit you're talking about, because I'm sitting here like, I used to have a bit about how people were dumb in the past or whatever. And one thing I said was, then I tell the whole story, which I believe is true, about how George Washington died, right? And he died because he got a simple cold and got bloodletting as a response to a cold. And he died from that. But I tell the whole story elaborately. And at the end of it, I'm like, but I do say, I'm like, I don't remember how, but something like a 12-year-old would know better. I was like, but you know, that's how dumb George Washington was, and he was the smartest man alive.
Well, it's funny
back then. Like, do you have any idea how dumb? But it's like I even mentioned earlier. That's the whole thing. We've talked about this. Come up a bunch. I've come around. I think that both things are kind of true.
No, your bit is good and it's true.
I know, but it's like even I now feel kind of differently about it. Like. There were plenty of people who were absolutely brilliant in the past, but even those people didn't know all the things that we know today.
They were brilliant for their time, though. Like,
right.
They weren't dumb at the time. And I think